Okay, welcome everyone to the final of the 2024 British Student Quiz Championships. It's been a very exciting day. We've had a 4-way tie after 11 rounds of competition, and then 2 semi-finals where Imperial A defeated Durham A, and Cambridge A defeated Edinburgh A to meet each other in this final. And I'll ask our teams to introduce themselves. Imperial A are the reigning champions, so we'll begin with the challengers. Cambridge A.
Hello, I'm Oscar. I'm from Dublin in Ireland and I study biochemistry.
Hi, I'm Agnijo. I'm from Dundee and I'm studying for a PhD in maths.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm from Singapore and I'm studying philosophy.
I'm Harrison. I'm from Terre Haute, Indiana, in the United States, and I'm doing film.
And then the defending champions, Imperial A.
Hi, I'm Justin Lee. I'm from Hong Kong, Canada, and I'm studying chemistry.
Hi, I'm Michael Mays. I'm from Montrose, and I'm doing a PhD in computational fluid dynamics.
Hello, I'm Adam Jones. I'm from Hong Kong, and I study computer science.
Hello, I'm Enoch Yuen. I'm from Hong Kong, and I'm doing a PhD in biology.
Okay then, best of luck to both teams, and let's begin with toss-up number 1. 2 side panels created to accompany this painting depict a green-clad angel playing a vielle and a red-clad angel playing a lute, the latter of which is attributed to Ambrosio de Predis. This painting was commissioned for the Chapel of the Immaculate Conception in Milan. 3 halos, the pointing hand of Uriel, and the cruciform staff of the infant John the Baptist are absent in the Louvre version of, for 10 points,
The Battle of San Marino.
It is not the Battle of San Marino. What Leonardo da Vinci painting that shows Jesus and Mary in a grotto?
Madonna of the Rocks.
Yeah. Madonna of the Rocks, or Virgin of the Rocks, is correct. So bonuses to Cambridge. This book applied Clifford Geertz's thick description technique to the study of early modern French history. For 10 points each, what 1984 book is titled for a 1730s episode in which apprentice printers in Paris revolted against being treated worse than their master's pets?
I don't know what it's exactly called. It's like the Great Cat Massacre or something like
try
that.
that.
The Great Cat Massacre.
The Great Cat Massacre is correct. Robert Darnton's The Great Cat Massacre also analyzes this compendium of Enlightenment knowledge, edited by Denis Diderot.
Encyclopedia.
Encyclopédie. And another chapter in the book discusses Joseph Demery's role in organizing this intellectual so-called republic, whose name was popularized by Pierre Bayle.
Republic, intellectual republic.
Answer, please.
Can we try pot?
No, that is the Republic of Letters.
Oh,
my
of course. Yeah.
So, toss-up 2. An adherent of this religion made a fortune in the opium trade and received a baronetcy whose holders must adopt his first and last name. An industrialist family that practiced this religion got its surname when French merchants dubbed its diminutive patriarch Petit. Under British colonialism, an immigrant community of this religion adopted profession-based surnames such as engineer and furniture wala. India's Irani and Parsi communities practice
Zoroastrianism?
Zoroastrianism is correct. And bonuses to Imperial. This street's unusual name is taken from a church which was torn down in 1561 before being merged with the parish of St Andrew Undershaft. For 10 points each, name a street in the city of London, home to the Gherkin, whose namesake church was once said to contain a weapon used to kill many Christian martyrs in Germany.
St. Mary Axe.
Okay.
St. Mary Axe.
St Mary Axe is correct. St Mary Axe is also home to the organisation that maintains what widely used economic index, which measures transportation costs by averaging the affordability of 20 major global shipping routes. Answer, please. That is the Baltic Dry Index. And the area of Bevis Marks and St Mary Axe is frequently mentioned in which Charles Dickens novel, supposedly inspired by a retailer located at 14 Portsmouth Street?
Is it the Old Curiosity Shop?
Yeah. Probably.
The Old Curiosity Shop.
The Old Curiosity Shop is correct, 20 on those. And toss 3. This process requires input ELF files to have a section header table, but not a program header table. The unique identifiers required by this process necessitate name mangling. The 2 main functions of this process are relocation and symbol resolution. The difficulty of doing this process at runtime on Windows computers is called DLL hell. Errors during this...
Linking?
Linking is correct for 10. Bonuses to Imperial. The NAD and hemin added to this growth medium are, for no apparent reason, called factors V and X. For 10 points each, what form of blood agar contains lysed red blood cells?
I thought it's just called blood agar.
Maybe serum?
Answer, please.
I don't know. LJ medium.
Nope, that is chocolate agar. A variant of chocolate agar called Thea-Martin agar is used to culture organisms in this bacterial genus that can cause meningitis and gonorrhea.
Neisseria, directed.
Neisseria is correct. And the terms factor 5 and factor 10, or factor V and factor X, usually refer to unrelated factors in a cascade in this process, which forms a fibrin mesh to strengthen the platelet plug.
Coagulation.
Yeah.
Coagulation is correct for 2 of those.
So this is like the hemo.
Toss-up number 4. This man's death prompts a servant to report that his parents knelt together with their heads drooping like sheep at midday. This man responds to invective against German chemists and materialists by declaring a good chemist is worth a score of your poets. He is kissed on the forehead by the woman he loves, a young widow, shortly before dying of typhus he contracted by cutting himself during an autopsy. Kirsanov is friends with, for 10 points, what nihilist in even...
Bazarov.
Bazarov is correct for 10. And bonuses to Imperial. Ludovico Ludovisi commissioned a fresco of this figure by Il Guercino, to which Agostino Tassi added quadratura architecture. For 10 points each, what goddess wears a billowing gold dress and guides a procession of hours in a ceiling fresco painted for Cardinal Borghese?
Is it the aurora, like the dawn or whatever?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's Aurora.
Aurora.
Aurora is correct. Guercino became this Italian city's leading painter after the death of his rival Guido Reni. Both artists were members of a Baroque school named for this city that was led by the Carracci family.
Where are they?
Pisa?
It could
Siena?
be Pisa. I don't think it's Siena. It's Pisa.
Answer, please.
Pisa.
That is Bologna. Guercino's early work made heavy use of this Baroque technique involving dramatic lighting contrasts, whose name is Italian for light-dark.
Yeah.
Chiaroscuro.
Chiaroscuro for 2 of those. Toss-up number 5. This author's characters include a lottery winner surnamed in reference to antisocial behaviour orders. Kirk Douglas inspired the actor Lorne Guyland in a novel by this man, whose protagonist is stalked by the menacing Frank the Phone. This author of Lionel Asbo created the hedonistic director John Self and Todd T.
Martin Amis.
Martin Amis is correct for 10. Bonus. In The Stripping of the Altars, Eamon Duffy argues that, contrary to most historiography, the religious policies of this ruler were widely and even enthusiastically accepted. For 10 points each, name this English ruler who sought to reverse the Protestant religious policies of their father and brother.
Mary the First.
Yeah.
Mary the First.
Mary the First is correct. Mary sought to revert the doctrinal basis of the English Church to one based on this text issued by Henry VIII in 1543, which had rejected the doctrine of justification by faith over Cranmer's objections.
6 articles, I think. The 6 articles.
That's not what I have. I have the King's Book.
Oh, yeah,
The execution of Mary's Counter-Reformation was led by this Bishop of London, who, though previously a follower of Thomas Cromwell, became notorious for his persecution of Protestants, and like Mary, was referred to as Bloody.
Bonner.
Bonner is correct for 2 of those. Toss-up number 6. The capital labour ratio stays constant if a technical change possesses the neutrality named for this man, who introduced English audiences to general equilibrium theory in his book Value and Capital. This man introduced an influential model in his paper Mr. Keynes and the Classics. A less stringent form of Pareto optimality is named for Nicholas Kaldor, and for 10 points, Hicks is correct for 10. Bonuses Imperial. In biology, this phenomenon occurs when separate signal transduction cascades interact. For 10 points each, name this phenomenon that, in electronics, occurs when an aggressor signal induces noise in a victim signal.
It's like interference or something?
No idea.
Yeah.
Interference.
I have crosstalk. A 2023 article in Scientific Reports showed that crosstalk is likely beneficial to this process of communication in which bacteria respond to autoinducers. This process controls biofilm formation.
Quorum sensing. Directed.
Yes, quorum sensing. And crosstalk between electronic signals occurs due to inductance, and this quantity measured in farads.
Capacitance, right?
Yeah.
Capacitance.
Capacitance is correct. 2 of those. Toss-up number 7. 1 over 2 pi raised to this positive power appears in the integrand of the Feynman propagator. This number is the left superscript in the term symbol for a state with a total spin of 3 halves, because this is the spin multiplicity for such a state. E over c, or the energy over the speed of light, is a component of an analog of momentum named for this number.
4.
4 is correct.
Well done.
10. Bonus is Cambridge. For 10 points each, answer these questions about uses of the harp in opera scores. What composer of the Elixir of Love featured a D major harp cadenza before the aria Regnava nel Silenzio in his opera Lucia di Lammermoor?
Donizetti.
Donizetti. The title character sings The Song to the Moon, an aria in 3/8 time with an obbligato harp part in what Antonin Dvorak opera?
Rusalka.
Rusalka is correct. And harp and flute are the primary instruments accompanying what duet in which Zerga and Nadia swear to remain friends?
Au fond du temple saint.
Excellent. All of those. Au fond du temple saint. And toss-up 8. This story compares wheeling crows to scattered sesame seeds and ends as a woman looks down a staircase, seeing only darkness, unknowing and unknown. A man in this story with a large red pimple defends the morals of a woman who made a living selling dried snake meat.
Rashomon?
Rashomon is correct, and you get 10. Bonus is Imperial. For 10 points each, answer the following about Austrian poet Ingeborg Bachmann. Bachmann was a member of Group 47, whose rubble literature dealt with the aftermath of this war.
World War II, presumably. Yeah. Second World War.
World War II is correct. Bachmann's In the Storm of Roses was inspired by her relationship with this German-Romanian poet, whose best-known poem references the golden hair of Margareta and the ashen hair of Shulamith. Porcelain is correct. And this resident of Rome discussed translating Bachmann poems into Italian in her essay Translation as a Practice of Acceptance. Claudio Gatti alleged that a reclusive author, Elena Ferrante, was actually this woman.
Anita Raja.
Yeah.
Anita Raja is correct. All of those. On to toss-up 9, for which a description is acceptable. In one film, this character appears on a poster in the office of a character named Anthony, voiced by Omid Jalili. After moving into one location, this character loudly plays an instrumental cover of Tie a Yellow Ribbon Around the Old Oak Tree throughout the night. They later changed the pattern on the wallpaper in that location from bones to fish. This character does not notice being watched from inside a box of Metabix dog food. This character wears a red glove to disguise himself.
Feathers McGraw.
Feathers McGraw is correct.
It's from Wallace and Gromit.
And bonuses to Imperial. For 10 points each, answer the following about anthropologist Marc Auger, who died in 2023. In An Introduction to Supermodernity, Auger used this term for areas such as supermarkets and airport baggage claims in which individual identity and social belonging are absent.
It's a term for areas where...
Answer, please.
I don't know. We don't know.
Those are non-places or non-spaces. A 2002 book by Auger analyzes the metro system in this capital city, where Emil Durkheim taught some of the earliest sociology courses. Paris is correct. And in a study of the Aladian people of Côte d'Ivoire, Auger discussed powers of these two opposing concepts, which partly title a 1961 book that describes interaction on US streets as a sidewalk ballet.
Culture and something, or...
Answer, please.
Race and class.
Yeah, race and class.
No. That is life and death.
Okay.
Or death and life. Toss-up number 10. Under this dynasty, the woodblock printed 80,000 Tripitaka was created. General Gang Zhou overthrew this dynasty's king Mokjong, reigniting a conflict that ended with this dynasty's victory at the Battle of Kwiju. This dynasty was founded by Wang Kon after the conquest of Balhae. Goryeo is correct for 10 points. And bonuses. For 10 points each, answer the following about the analogy between electromagnetism and weak field gravity. Newton's law of gravitation is analogous to this inverse square law describing the electric force exerted by a point charge.
Coulomb's law, right?
Coulomb's law is correct. Gravito-electromagnetism encodes relativistic effects using an analog of this function. In electromagnetism, the curl of this function gives the magnetic field.
Must be like potential, right? Potential.
No. That is the vector potential.
Okay.
Theorists of gravito-electromagnetism include this physicist, whose eponymous equations give the magnetic and electric fields as volume integrals evaluated at the retarded time.
Maxwell?
I don't think so.
Do you have an alternative?
No.
Answer?
Maxwell.
No, that is Oleg Jefemenko.
I've never heard.
And we begin the second half with toss-up 11. A dancer from this country worked with German artist Walter Spies to develop a performance in which men form concentric circles around a torch and chant Chak. An art form from this country employs props carved from leather and bird-shaped oil lamps called blenchong. Drums and fiddle accompany narrated tales of Prince Panji in a masked dance form from this country called Topeng. Shadow puppet theatre called what?
Like Indonesia.
Indonesia is correct for 10. Bonus is Cambridge. This feast day was introduced into the Roman Rite calendar in 1925 and moved to its current date in 1970. For 10 points each, what feast marks the last Sunday of the Roman Catholic liturgical year and celebrates Jesus' dominion over creation?
Christus Rex Mundi.
No, that is the Feast of Christ the King.
Christ.
Did he say that?
Like in Latin.
Okay. I didn't have a translation, but yeah. What do you say?
Christus Rex Mundi.
Oh, that's fine. Okay. Christ the King is the last Sunday in this period between Eastertide and Advent. It is named for the numbers by which the weeks are counted.
Wait, sorry. After this, what?
After Easter, between Advent.
Quinquagesima.
No, I have ordinary time.
Oh, sorry.
Until 1970, the Feast of Christ the King was celebrated on the Sunday before this feast day, which occurs annually on November the 1st, right after Halloween.
All Saints.
All Saints.
All Saints is correct for 2 of those. Plus a 12. A structure that detects this stimulus, consisting of a hyalosome and a melanosome, is found in dinoflagellates in the family Wanawaceae. Oceloids and the stigma of Euglena detect this stimulus.
Light.
Light is correct for 15.
Well done, Oscar.
Very well.
Bonus is Cambridge. This author wrote that God moves the player and he the piece in his poem Chess for 10 points each. A riddle whose answer is chess is discussed in what Argentine author's story, The Garden of Forking Paths?
Borges.
Borges is correct. An inconsistent sentence about chess players concludes The God of the Labyrinth, a detective novel discussed in a Borges story titled An Examination of the Work of this fictional author.
Work of is it a Chinese guy or?
No, it's a Borges thing.
Answer, please.
Yeah.
No, that is Herbert Quain. And an article proposing a version of chess that removes one of the rook's pawns is among the works of this Borges character who attempts to recreate the novel Don Quixote.
It's also in the title of that
Is
story.
it like Funes Il Memorial?
Yeah.
Like Funes Il Memorial?
I'm afraid not. That's
Good guess.
Pierre Menard.
Yeah, Menard, yeah.
So one of those, and moving on to topic 13. One of the original versions of this object was destroyed by Mr. Hyde and the Masters of Evil, but was restored and given to Eli Bradley. This object was scarred after being broken by the serpent in the fear...
Thor's hammer.
It is not Thor's hammer.
Oh.
After being broken by the serpent in the Fear Itself storyline. Myron McLean never duplicated the process that created this object during experiments with vibranium. It is shaped like a triangle on a 1941 cover in which it is held by a man punching Adolf Hitler. For 10 points, what object is wielded by a patriotic...
Captain America's shield.
Captain America's shield is correct. For 10. Bonuses to Cambridge. Statements about this set are vacuously true. For 10 points each, name this set symbolised by a circle with a slash through it.
The empty set. The empty set.
Empty set is correct. This statement asserts that any product of non-empty sets gives a non-empty result. Modern set theory typically adds this statement to Zermelo-Frankel set theory.
The axiom of choice.
The axiom of choice is correct. And a form of the axiom of choice is derivable in this mathematician's constructive type theory. This mathematician developed a definition of algorithmic randomness using the measure theory notion of a null set.
Is it
Constructive type theory.
Kolmogorov?
It's not Kolmogorov, it's Per Martin-Löf.
Oh.
Okay.
Plus at 14. Later in life, this person became obsessed with the expatriate nurse Evgenia Sulin. This person was referred to as John by the leader singer Mabel Batten. A painting by Romaine Brooks showed Lady Trowbridge with 2 dachshunds given to her by this woman. Both Trowbridge and this person lived at 10 Stirling Street and identified as congenital inverts. James Douglas suggested he would rather give a girl prussic acid than read a book that this author wrote.
Radcliffe Hall.
Radcliffe Hall is correct. For 10. During this year, the assassination of Francisco Javier Ovando hampered the FDN's plans to monitor election fraud. For 10 points each, identify this year in which a ruling party remained in power after dubiously claiming that a telephone system for tabulating votes had crashed.
Where are we?
No idea.
Somebody managed to stay in power despite saying that.
Okay.
Give a year.
1992.
It's 1988. The FDN candidate in Mexico's 1988 presidential election was a member of this family named Cuauhtemoc. In 1938, a Mexican president from this family nationalized oil resources.
I mean,
from this family?
you should know this.
Like, are there any prominent
like
Mexican families?
Answer, please.
Madero.
Yeah, Madero.
No, that is the Cardenas family.
Cardenas.
Mexico's 1988 election was officially won by this party that, under various names, dominated the country's 20th century politics.
Is this the PRI?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
so.
PRI.
That is the PRI.
Yeah.
One of those takes us to toss-up 15. This philosopher defended an earlier reference to inner truth and greatness in an interview in which he claimed that only a god can save us. The world becomes a standing reserve via enframing.
Whitaker.
Heidegger is correct, and you get 15.
Great.
Bonuses to Cambridge. 2 of this novel's 8 volumes are narrated by Andrew Bogle, who recounts the horrors of slavery in Jamaica. For 10 points each, name this 2023 historical fiction novel in which the claimant brings a lawsuit in 1860s London seeking to inherit the baronetcy of Roger Tichborne.
Are you sure it's not what it's called? Is it The Trick? I thought it was The
No,
Trick.
it's a trial.
Okay.
It's a trial.
It's The Fraud. The Fraud is the 6th novel and the first with a pre-contemporary setting by this English author of N.W. and White Teeth.
Smith.
Yes, Zadie Smith. Smith's 2005 novel On Beauty was inspired by this older novel in which Leonard Bass, the one-time lover of Helen Schlegel, dies from a heart attack after falling into a bookcase. Howard's End for 2 of those. 5 toss-ups to go. And we begin with toss-up 16. This composer dedicated his Valse Scherzo for violin and orchestra to Joseph Kotek. He reused material from an abandoned symphony in E-flat major in his single-movement Piano Concerto No. 3, for which Sergei Taneyev wrote 2 extra movements. This man's last symphony uses an E, G, F-sharp, A cross motif in its opening movement and ends with an Adagio lamentoso. He conducted the premiere of that work 9 days before his death. For 10 points, what Russian...
Shostakovich.
It is not Shostakovich. For 10 points, what Russian composed the Pathetique Symphony?
Tchaikovsky.
Tchaikovsky is correct. Bonuses... Michael. Bonuses to Imperial. Greg Graffin notes, there's a furnace set on high and a yearning undefined in a Bad Religion song title for this 2-word phrase. For 10 points each, the first verse of Motion City Soundtrack's LGFUAD ends with what 2-word phrase, which describes an event that happens each time I step outside in Ballad of a Homeschooled Girl.
Die inside?
Sure, yeah.
Answer,
Die
please.
inside?
That's Social Suicide.
Oh, yes.
Ballad of a Homeschooled Girl appears with Bad Idea Right and Vampire on Guts, a 2023 album by this part Filipina singer.
Olivia Rodrigo.
Olivia Rodrigo is correct. And this Japanese-British singer of Cherry and STFU claims I survived the social suicide in her 2022 song Your Age.
It's not Mitski.
Is it?
I don't know.
Rina Sawayama.
What was the answer?
Mitski.
It's not Mitski, it's Rina Sawayama.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Toss-up 17.
Come on.
A regretful devotee of this deity is chased from the seashore into the forest by an unyoked lion in Catullus 63. During the Second Punic War, a black meteorite representing this deity was acquired on the advice of the Sibylline oracle by Rome, which later dedicated the Creobilium and Taurobelium sacrifices to her. This goddess's priests, the Gali, castrated themselves in emulation of her consort Attis. The Greeks identified
Gaia.
It's not Gaia. The Greeks identified Rhea with, for 10 points, what Phrygian mother goddess?
Inanna.
No, that is Cybele or Kybele.
I didn't know that.
That's from I didn't know that.
So we move on to toss-up 18. People who darkened their faces to commit this crime were the namesake of the Black Act of 1723, which greatly expanded Britain's use of the death penalty. Delia Owens, the author of Where the Crawdads Sing, was accused of orchestrating the vigilante murders of people suspected of
Poaching.
Poaching is correct, and you get 15. Bonuses. Both poems titled for this location are written in couplets of 15ers for 10 points each. Name this location, which titles a poem whose misogynistic speaker complains of his rejection by his cousin Amy, and its sequel, 60 Years After, which reveals that she died in childbirth.
It's Tennyson. It's Locksley Hall. Does that sound right? It's something like that.
Answer.
Locksley Hall.
Locksley Hall is correct. Locksley Hall is an early poem by this poet of Tithonus and Ulysses. Tennyson. And the imagery of Locksley Hall drew on the language of the pre-Islamic Mu'allaqat poems, which had been translated by this 18th century linguist, who also made the first English translation of Shakuntala.
It's
This might be-
not Fitzgerald.
This might be William Jones because he was the
Yeah,
guy
he
who
did
said
do
it.
that,
William Jones.
William Oriental Jones is correct. 2 toss-ups to go. Toss-up 19. Alex Wolff has argued that the only Old English word preserved in this author's most famous work, Culis, meaning ships, is part of a later interpolation, since it is part of a pagan prophecy. In that work, this author uses a large number of borrowings from the fall of Troy in Book 2 of the Aeneid in his Historia section. This author is the earliest to report an appeal to a man called Agitius, possibly the...
Gildas.
Gildas is correct for 10.
I've actually never heard of Gildas.
Bonuses to Imperial. In a child ballad, this figure impregnates a mortal named Janet after she plucks a double rose near Carter Hall. For 10 points each, name this shape-shifting male figure who was redeemed from the Queen of the Fairies in a Scottish legend.
Male shape-shifting figure.
Answer, please.
We don't know.
No, that is Tam Lin. The story of Tam Lin features in a reel named for this most populous city in Scotland.
Most populous is Glasgow.
Glasgow is correct. And in this 2015 fantasy novel by Sarah J. Maas, the first entry in a namesake series, a high fae named Tam Lin abducts a human girl, Feyre, and takes her to the realm of Prythian.
Is this the Court of Thorns and Roses or something? It's a court.
Yeah.
A Court of Thorns and Roses?
A Court of Thorns and Roses is correct. So for 2 of those, 265, 250. Final toss-up. DTNB, or Ellman's reagent, quantifies the concentration of these functional groups. A nucleophile with 2 of this functional group is reacted with a carbonyl, then treated with Raney nickel in the Mazinga reduction. The oxidative coupling of these functional groups is catalyzed by PDI in the endoplasmic reticulum during protein folding. The simplest of these compounds...
Thiol.
Repeat that?
Thiol.
Thiol is correct. And I have to give you some bonuses, Cambridge. For 10 points each, name these Spartan kings. This husband of Gorgo led 300 Spartans in a last stand against the Persians at the Battle of Thermopylae.
Leonidas, right?
Yeah.
Leonidas is correct. This king assisted Cleisthenes in toppling the last Athenian tyrant, Hippias, and defeated Argos to give Sparta hegemony in the Peloponnese.
Who was the, it was Lysander at the time,
I
right?
don't care.
I don't really mind. Go with
Okay, that is Cleomenes the first. And with Pausanias, this king ruled Sparta at the start of the Peloponnesian War. Although he was opposed to the outbreak of war, he led 3 invasions of Attica.
Lysander.
It's not Lysander, it's Archidamus II.
Life goes on.
Well, we are really bad at
So with count those... He's 72 as well. So, congratulations to Cambridge, taking the win 270 to 265. I'll invite you to come up and collect your trophy, please.